Hey guys, welcome back to Casual Coaster Enthusiast. This is a series, I don't have a good name for it yet, but we're doing a series where I'm going to rebuild and redesign some of the in-game blueprints for the coasters, with a focus on making them more realistic. In the last episode, we were doing a Maurer sky loop called Twisted Arc. This one is another Maurer design. This is their spinning coaster model. This one is called Snooker. And actually, I was just looking through the design a little bit before, and some of this actually reminds me almost of like a Gerstauer style spinning coaster, especially this brake run into the helix. Feels very Gerstauer. And then there's another, this flat turn, which I guess maybe now that I think about it, isn't necessarily a manufacturer-specific thing. But one thing that I notice, and we'll write it in a little bit, but one thing I'm noticing is there is like, some of these turns are very underbanked, which is going to be a major focus as I redesign this, is trying to get the banking a little more accurate. So let's hop on the ride, and then I'll have a more detailed breakdown of this afterward. Alright, so one thing I'm noticing is one, and I guess they were doing this to work around some of the queue, but the station is very, very elevated, and what that leads into is this kind of awkwardly large drop to get it closer to ground level. This first turn drops very steeply for this kind of thing. So that's one thing I would do, is lower the station quite a bit, and especially because for this project we're not doing any pathing, so we don't need to worry as much. And then I would just incorporate brakes right at the base of the lift, a block section, probably. I think maybe Planet Coaster 2 considers the lift a block section, but just for the sake of getting extra trains on there, I kind of want to do that. But really, the big thing is this turn. this drop right here. It's kind of a funky profile. I would make this steeper. Certainly the banking needs to be adjusted. But make this turn steeper and then into this pull out. That's elevated quite a bit, so that we want to bring almost to ground level. You generally don't want to have track directly on the ground, but certainly just above ground level, I think we want to bring that to. And then this turnaround seems to be trying to go for sort of a horseshoe turn around, I think. I think it's called. It's a very particular style of overbank turnarounds common to these kinds of spinning coasters. So I don't know the exact profiling on those, but I know they do bank very, very heavily. They're all I don't think they quite reach 90, but they're very, very sharply banked. And then we'll keep this profile or something similar into the mid-course brake run. I don't necessarily dislike this turn around into the helix. Excuse me. I think we can maybe reprofile it a little bit, but it's not bad. And then keep this, and then the last big change I would make, depending on how the profiling works out, try to make this a curved drop, and then I think we could probably turn this turnaround near the end, the second to last turnaround, make that a horseshoe turn like we did with the first turnaround, and then probably add another helix here into the final brake run. So I'll be back once I have the coaster set up, and then yeah, so I'll get that set up and I'll come back and we can start building. Alright, we are back. I've got the station set up, recolored the trains, recolored the track. So let's go ahead and build. And what I will do is I'm going to set this up to 45. And then yeah, we don't want a full drop on here, so I'm going to just get it set up to turn off the angle snap, and then I'll come back to finish building. So I have it set up around 3 degrees. I'm just angling the turn slightly, and that's just to help the train make the turn using gravity, so that you don't have to set up drive wheels on the track, which you don't usually see drive wheels on turns like that, so you will get sort of you will get slightly angled turns, just again because you don't want you don't want to have to have drive trackers. You can lets the trains take turns to low speeds like this just through gravity. And I know same thing with last episode. none of this is scripted, so I'm going to be rambling. I'm going to be repeating myself. And I'm just, this is going to be a little bit awkward for that reason. So we can turn on the catwalk, and then I'll come back. I'm going to turn angle snap back on so we can build the chain lift. And I tend to like to keep the angle snap on to 11.25 degrees. I'm a little bit rusty on my mount. And I know I had the same issue in the last episode with the sky loop. And the problem is Maurer coasters are, the spinning coasters are fairly popular, especially at smaller parks. But Maurer coasters in general are not as common as certain other manufacturers, and so, the ones that pop up everywhere, I can generally have a better sense of their design styles, even if I don't necessarily know all of the intricacies of it. But Maurer, so I do believe they're maybe not. I thought their lifts were a little bit steeper. No, I think, actually, no, I think 33.75 is fine. And we don't want to go particularly tall with this, so I think we can round it out like 63 feet is fine. And I like to shorten it just a little bit to try to maintain some consistency. I know it's, on real coasters, the exits tends to be a little bit elongated. The exits of the lift hills tend to be a little bit elongated compared at the crest, sort of going in and coming out. It's a little bit asymmetrical, but in a game like this, I tend to like to think about the visuals of it. So I tend to like to keep it a little more consistent than maybe you would see in real life. So let's unlock, and we can gonna use 20-foot pieces. I'm working with imperial measurements here. And banking, let's do 4 feet, it's fine. And that seems okay. to build our, what did I say it was called? I'm genuinely blanking on the name right now, but that overbanked turnaround. So the profiling is a little bit off, but that's fine. Actually, yeah, I think we want to do that. So that's fine. And then we can totally do an upwards helix. Even make it that. And I think we want to go to 20. That seems fine. We can probably even make it steep, more steeply banked, like so. And then block section, turn on the catwalk. Let's take a look. So we are going to go into that next sort of the downward helix. Like so. They're getting caught. I'm break room. So let's see. I think we can probably even go up a little bit further. Yep, that's good. And we want okay. And I'm just gonna hop over and see where we are in the layout. Alright, so I am back. I was testing the ride a little bit, just to make sure the the pacing of the ride itself, but then also the timing between block sections, just to see that we were good on that front. And I am going to add a straight. A little bit awkward. I would much rather keep the pace, keep the elements close together, but Alright, I am back. I finished up the layout off screen. I made a few changes. I had to lower this second, or the third brake run, the second to last brake run. And that meant lowering this turnaround. This was supposed to be another horseshoe turnaround, but I obviously couldn't do that with how low to the ground it had to be. And then this turnaround into the brakes was originally going to be a helix, but I couldn't get that to work, one, because the brake run is so close to the ground that the clearance was questionable, and then also it just lost so much speed that it couldn't make it through a helix, so I just made that a regular turnaround, which is fine. It's still a fine layout. So I'm going to hop on and we'll grab a POV, and then I'll wrap this episode up. Alright, so let me know down in the comments what you guys thought. I'm generally happy with how the layout turned out. There's a couple things I wish I could have done differently. It's just I wasn't able to get everything to work out, just with the way the game is. I kind of mentioned I would have liked this, after this final mid-course break run, I would have liked to make another horseshoe turn and then have a final helix, but I just, with the physics of the game, and I tried adjusting the brake run here to, so it didn't completely kill the speed, but yeah, just the way the game works, I just wasn't able, or the physics of the game, I wasn't able to get anything more than what I have here. So, it's really just this ending that, if I could redo, I would have done differently, if I knew what I was doing, really. But I think in general, I do like the first horseshoe turn, the way it kind of wraps around the lift hill. I think that's kind of a neat effect, so I'm generally happy with it. It's just, like I said, that ending, and that's mostly just because of the speed the train loses a lot of speed. So that's really the only thing I wish I could have done differently. But let me know what you guys think about how this turned out, and I'll catch